If you look at the news media, you see one catastrophe after another. And so many people, they feel that we're in a very divided world. It's a world where there's a great deal of polarization between the religions, the races, different communities, the North and the South, the East and the West. And therefore, unity is a very important word. And another word that I think is really related to unity is harmony. Um, One of my special interests is music, and I play the piano, which has 88 keys, and it's all about working with harmony and creating beauty in sound using all the different notes. And the piece of music, which is very beautiful when everything is in harmony, it has the capacity to carry people to a transcendent state. And this is why music is very much associated with spirituality. And of course, every soul in the world is different. And every soul in the world is related to every other soul in a fraternal way. And therefore, the human family is a family, but it's made of individuals who are all very different. So unity and harmony and working together. There is another expression that I think is good for us to be aware about, quite a popular expression, unity in diversity, because we are all different. There is a great deal of diversity in the world. Just if you look at the geography of the world, how much variation there is. But yet, in all the places that I have visited, you find elements in each place that you find in each other place. And so there are many elements in our human experience that, regardless of the variations, there are so many things in common which bring us together. And when you think about the qualities of the soul, in the way that I speak about the soul, I make a comparison with the 5 elements of matter, which are air, earth, fire, water, and ether. And you don't really find any of these elements by themselves, but they're always working together, in spite of the fact that they are individual elements that cannot become, one element cannot become another element, but yet when you experience the material world, everything you see and hear and experience is a combination of all these 5 elements. And then when you look at the soul, then the way I look at it, the soul also has 5 essential qualities, which is purity, peace, power, love, and bliss. And of course, it's absolutely true to say that no one experiences a combination of these 5 qualities on a continuous basis, because people, if they're seeking for peace, it means they're looking for an essential thing, something that's really essential to their existence, but they are away from it. And so they gravitate towards it, they seek it. Everyone longs to experience love. People engage in relationships with each other because of love. You love someone, you wish to be loved, you feel inspired by love. It makes you feel worthwhile when you experience love. Purity is also something that everyone strives for. If there is anything unclear, unclean in your personal experience, whether it's what other people show to you or what you do to other people, your conscience always feels uncomfortable, because it is natural to be in a state of purity. You want to be pure. You want to experience purity in everyone's motivation, and why you do what you do is because of pure intention. Many people say that they just don't have enough power, and you need power in order to actually do what you want to do. There are many tests, many trials that people experience individually and collectively, and these trials very often are because people don't have the power of truth, or they don't have the power to stand up for themselves, or they don't have the power to be stable and steady, or they don't have the power to be detached. So power, personal power, is very, very important. And the essential characteristic of the soul is really to be in your power. And peace, in Hindi we say Shanti, Om Shanti. We say Om Shanti a lot among each other. And I look at this word Shanti in three different meanings. One, of course, is peace, but Shanti also means to be still, and it also means to be silent. So this, which is called the original dharma of the soul, to be shant, to be at peace, silent, still, I think this is the essential beginning of the soul's expression of itself in life. And all souls are made up of these qualities, and yet every single one expresses their being differently. And so life on this earth is a dance between the many, many configurations of qualities, sanskaras, specialities of every soul. So what causes disunity or fragmentation among people? And one of the things is that every soul is at the moment depleted. So we have learned that time is a huge cycle, and that you pass from a very empowered state, slowly deteriorating over time to a disempowered state. And this state of being disempowered is a key ingredient to the polarization, the fragmentation that we see in the world around us, whether it's on the international plane or whether it's just within the small world of our own families, and even the smaller world of our own selves, our relationship with ourselves, our relationship with our body, our mind. There is often a lot of fragmentation there, also a lot of even distress sometimes. And when we study spirituality, all our analyses of what's gone wrong eventually leads us to the conclusion that our problem is that we have lost power. And anything which is not working properly causes distress. And so when the soul has lost power, then it's just not able to function according to its true essence. And so we meditate. Meditation in the sense of focusing our attention on the one. And of course, the word unity means everything is one. But of course, we know that everyone is an individual unit, and the Earth is a planet among many planets. But the one that we're referring to is the source, the force, the supreme being, the one supreme soul who never loses power, who is stable, who is unchanging. And this is really the most important ingredient, I think, for restoring us to a world of harmony. When a lot of different people are all disempowered, they're also in disharmony. And it doesn't matter what we do to try and become harmonious with each other, unless we focus on re-empowering ourselves through the meditation, our efforts ultimately are not so successful. But in my experience, and I have analyzed and experimented with all these things for many years, and my conclusion is that always the most important thing of all is to be connected with the self, and that means to keep oneself independent of all the many influences that there are around us. And it is the nature of the soul to be influenced. That is the way a soul is. And what we're looking for is to come into the sphere of influence of the Supreme Being, so that we can draw that power into ourselves. And this is what we mean by Raj Yoga, which is what we all practice. And so we're not trying to become clones of each other. Some people think that unity is a form of uniformity, where everyone becomes very like one another. And of course, it is a natural human inclination to seek out people who are like-minded, people who have similar interests, people who have similar background, similar angle of vision on life. We all do that. And we find that there are some who are like us and some who are not like us. But it doesn't mean that we all have to be the same as each other in order for there to be unity, in the sense of uniformity. Some people think that that's one solution, but I myself feel that, there is beauty in the variations. The place where I am at the moment, which is actually in France, around this house, there's a very, very beautiful garden. And the person who looks after the garden finds the garden to be the most important thing physically to work with, because it has so much symbolic meaning. And the garden is full of flowers of all different types and all different colors and all different perfumes. And because of these flowers, the birds come, all kinds of different birds come, and all kinds of different butterflies and insects. And you see the harmony in nature, that each thing is its own self with its own beauty, but all of them are in harmony together, and if any element was missing, then the beauty of the garden would be compromised. And so I look at the human family like this also, that we're all really very different. And yet, when you bring all of us together, and when everyone is in the fullness of their virtues, their specialities, and their qualities and their powers, it is really beautiful. And the interaction is natural and harmonious, like a kind of music. And I think that the world that we are striving for, all of us in our own ways, are working towards a better world, to contribute as we can to make the family more happy, more harmonious, more comfortable, accepting each other's differences. Everyone has such an extraordinary combination of qualities, but yet the face of every human being is different from every other human being. This is quite a phenomenon. And just as the face is different, so the personality is different. And sometimes you get, if I refer again to the analogy of the garden, sometimes people will make pictures of flowers with a human face in the middle of the flower, because the multitude of different species of flowers that there are all over the world corresponds to the great variety of different people that there are. And what nature shows us is this harmony of color and perfume and size and shape and all these different things. And when you have the whole thing together in a harmonious way, it looks really good. And if you look at some different parts of the world where there are difficulties, where there is war, where there is poverty, you also see that these difficulties that human beings experience, you can see it in the landscape. You can see it in people's faces, the expression of sorrow on the faces, or the expression of anger. And so we live in a world where there is the potential for harmony, but when there is disempowerment, spiritual depletion, I would say, then that harmony turns into its opposite, which is disharmony. The sound can be not music, but cacophony. And so unity, to me, is really about each one just understanding that the problem is not that someone is bad, but that people who are spiritually depleted can very easily do bad things, whether it's your own self or whether it's other people. And the things that all of us have been through in our lives have hurt us in many occasions. Sometimes we have felt betrayed or neglected or passed over or rejected, or any of these different feelings. They interfere with your internal harmony, and they interfere with your natural harmonious interaction with each other. And in that situation is where we begin to accumulate negative karma with each other. And in spirituality, we also study about the philosophy of karma, which is very deep and very subtle. Many people I think almost everyone in the world knows the word karma and has some idea about what that's about, but there are really very few who have been able to study it to the extent of understanding all the intricacies of it. Because some things, some disharmony is because of karma, and some disharmony is because of the effect of time. And you can't do anything about the fact that time means aging, it means deterioration, and that's just a reality that we have to come to terms with. And then there is also destiny, you see. And nobody can point the finger and say, so and so is responsible for my destiny. No, each and every one of us has their own destiny. And a destiny of everyone has got positive and negative in it. And the way we handle our destiny may be how we express ourselves verbally or by thought or by actions, and that's our karma. And then there is this effect of time, which is slowly eroding our spiritual energy. And so then we start to be aware that even if lots of things go wrong, we can't really blame anyone. And so one of the very important things I think that we learn in spiritual practice and in meditation is to come to terms with the realities of these three: karma, time, destiny. Sometimes we get very impatient, or we get very frustrated, or sometimes we feel that we understand it very well, but then after a while we realize, no, we don't understand it quite well. So we have to again go back to the drawing board and look at existence, look at human life again and again. And so one of the things that people are looking for is called truth. And truth is a difficult word to work with because, it's very hard to say what is truth exactly. But there are some poets who have said that truth is beauty. And God is always described as truth. And so definitely we would say that the concepts and ideas about the reality of human life are known to God and can be known to us, but they're subtle and they're deep. And so we spend our whole lives trying to understand it better and better, and to expect to be held accountable for what we're doing, and to not blame anyone for who they are or what they're doing or what happened to them. But I like this expression about coming to terms with what has happened, because then you can let go of the past. And this is also something that we learn about quite a lot in our spiritual study, that yes, we have to come to terms with things that have happened in the past. We have to work it through. And why we have to do that is so that we can be able to let it go and move forward and really see that everyone is blameless. And this is why I think, to me, looking forward means looking at the Supreme Being. Looking backward is looking at something you can't do anything about, so there's no point in stressing oneself about it. I think a very nice thing that we learn is that, every second that passes, you have to let it go, because it won't come back. and try to be, this is one of the things that Daddy Janki taught me, second by second, be in the present second, be open for the future to come into the present, and allow the past to go second by second. And then I think you can really be more conscious of the harmony that is potential in our relationship with each other. And then we can actually exchange the pure feelings and good wishes. Baba has always talked to us about pure feelings and good wishes. Everyone is an actor. This is a big drama, so everyone is obligated to play their role. And we can't say, you shouldn't be playing like this, you should be playing like that. Of course, we all do all the time, but when you're really aware of the spiritual knowledge, then you can't say that. You say, it is what it is. And you're feeling what you're feeling, you work through it, you let it go. Because I think the principle of seeing each person as a pure, peaceful, loveful, blissful being of light, with whom we have the possibility of harmonious interaction, that is very, very simple, but it's very meaningful. And I think with a practice like that, then it's a very nice way to try to bring about harmony, even if there is a condition of disharmony, but harmony is always possible. And the other thing that is so helpful to us is when we are practicing to be soul conscious and practicing to be connected, practicing to be connected with the Supreme Being, because we're drawing power. And the more we draw power, the easier it is to exude the vibration, the atmosphere of a self-aware being of light, and the easier it is to perceive the other as your brother, your sister, a beautiful being. You don't really look at what the person is doing, that is their role, but who a person is, you see. And then you don't see the differences. One of the things that gets in the way of unity is prejudice. Some people are gender bias, prejudice towards one gender away from the other gender. Some people are prejudiced according to the skin color, and some people are prejudiced according to the social bracket, or according to the education level, or what job they're performing, or how much money they have, or which country they belong to, or what is their religion. And all of these are really nothing to do with who a person is. And so the sort of vision of the soul that we learn about encourages us to look at who a person is, more than what they did or what they're doing or what they might do, but who are they? And then who am I? You know, the pure, peaceful, loveful, blissful soul, but who's very different from the next pure, peaceful, loveful, blissful being of light. So it is a wonder that there is so much that we have in common, and so much that distinguishes us one from the other. And the aim, I think, is to be able to engage with all the differences, but in a harmonious way, or a way that brings maybe a divided situation into a harmonious situation. And that is a lifetime of work, a lifetime of study. And so it is compared with cultivating your garden. You know, every day you have to take out the weeds. Every day you have to see what the weather is like. The garden needs sunshine, it needs fertilizer. Something that grows too big, you have to trim it. You have to repot certain plants. You have to see if there are any pests or any illnesses. And you have to care for your garden. And the garden is like yourself. It's like your family. It's like your country. It's like the whole world. And this is why I think, you know, there is this expression, the garden of Allah. It's an expression for heaven, or in Christianity they talk about the Garden of Eden. And it's not really the plants that it's referring to, but a human society where people are sufficiently full with their spiritual qualities that they can really be part of a harmonious combination. And then we're all right, you see. So I think that these are just kind of important things to always remember. We always forget them, of course we forget them, but we need to remember them because we have to understand what makes us forget. And I think a lot of it is to do with perception. The default state of a human being is to perceive through the sense organs, and you perceive what someone looks like, if someone's male or female, if they're old or young, fat or thin, rich or poor, whatever the color of the body is, all these various things, we perceive it. And our mind is filled with these physical perceptions. And then we will operate on the basis of these physical perceptions. That's our default state of being. We call that body consciousness. But the striving or the tapasya that we are learning in spiritual study is to see the soul. And what does that actually mean? To see the soul. We're trying to perceive something, someone that is not physical. And our default condition is to perceive the physical. So we have to really make a constant effort again and again to bring ourselves into that ability to perceive the subtle, the invisible, the real, and to override the appearances, because whatever is physical is an appearance, but it is often said appearance is not reality. Or they say, you know, don't judge a book by the cover, and that means do not consider that the external, visible, perceivable form of a person is what they are. And we know this, and we hear it every day, but yet, because our default position is to see the physical, we really have to be all the time working on seeing the subtle and seeing the invisible. And this is actually the reason why we need meditation, because when you're meditating, you're taking power for the purpose of being able to perceive the invisible. And that takes a lot of power, because you have to have more power than the magnetic power of matter. So physical perception is to do with the magnetic power of matter. Like if you tell somebody, oh, after 10 minutes you will die, they won't like that. Why not? Because the bondage the attachment of the self with your own body is so meaningful. That's our identity. You look in the mirror, you say, that's me. You look at a photograph of your physical form, you say, that's me. And it's so natural, it's so immediate to respond that way. And yet, the more we manage to accumulate spiritual power, the more we don't fall into that default position. And it is said that it takes a lot of effort and a lot of time to actually reach that point where your default position is that you see the soul. And we're going from a state of being spiritually depleted quite severely to a state where we, all of us together and individually, are spiritually full, complete, empowered, and naturally soul conscious. And so this is our effort, and we have to remind ourselves every day. We study every day, we meditate every day, we make mistakes every day. So we have to be quite patient with ourselves and quite patient with each other. And I think the Supreme Being is extraordinarily patient with all of us, because we often think, oh, we should be able to do this in a year or 2 years or 5 minutes or whatever, because it's so simple. But yet to make that kind of change of perception and change of consciousness, that's a commitment. I think it's a lifetime journey, and all of us are on this journey. And we are looking at this, you can say, this light at the end of the tunnel where everyone is spiritually aware and everyone is spiritually empowered. And so we call this a pilgrimage. We're on a long journey, and we're journeying together. And all sorts of things happen along the way. Things go wrong. We have nice time, bad time, difficult time. We fall down. There are so many things that happen. But yet, that light at the end of the tunnel is always in front of us. And so we have to move towards that. And I think that is a very powerful instrument to unite us, because all of us, regardless of our differences, we're all going to the same destination. And that destination is to be completely aware of who we are and completely connected with the Supreme Guide, who is saying, come to me, take power from me, and you will succeed, and you will understand each other, you will understand yourself, you will get through these difficult times. And that is really very, very helpful for us to have this constant energy moving us forward to counteract this other energy that keeps wanting to pull us back, or we say, it's too hard, it's too long, I don't know if I can make it. Sometimes doubt comes, and this is normal. And we need to become very experienced in dealing with the weaknesses that we all have and the doubts that we all experience, and get through them and get past them. And I think that doing this is the process of building character, and that nobody's perfect. We know that. And we're we don't want to engage in perfectionism, because that's an ism and that's not the same thing. A beautiful description of perfection is balance. And we are in many ways unbalanced. One side is working well, another side not so well. We have all these different attributes of our being, and if they're not balanced, they're also not in harmony. So yes, it's a big job to come into harmony with our own selves, let alone with each other. But balance is a key ingredient. The image that we have, which is said to be our aim and object, the image that we have, the image of Lakshmi and Narayan, or the image of Vishnu. This is the image of a representation of the perfectly balanced human being. Masculine, feminine balance, all colors are included in the one. The mind is balanced, the words are meaningful, the actions are loving and detached, and there is power to say no or power to say yes, power to represent yourself, power to be flexible, power, all the different powers that we have, that we are being gifted with. They help us to reach where we want to go. And I think that the experiences that we have make us more flexible, less rigid. And I think that we can't have harmony and unity as well as being inflexible. We need to be very flexible with our own selves and with each other. Because it's a process, it's a long journey, and we haven't yet reached. We need to have very good faith in ourselves. I will reach, and my brothers and sisters will reach. And no matter what happens, we will reach. And this faith is very, very important in helping us to keep going, because it's just very important not to give up. Sometimes people do give up. Things get too hard for them and they give up. And this is why it's very nice when we support each other. Someone may find it difficult, and if somebody is with them, helping them to move forward, then they can cross that hump and then get going again. And that is love for each other. That is to help each other to go forward and stick with each other, but yet we don't, depend on each other. We can't really say, this was another very important thing that Daddy Janki taught me. You can never stop your spiritual practice because of someone else's behavior. Your spiritual practice and your movement forward has nothing to do with what anybody else is doing. It's you yourself. But of course we go through lots of different stages, just growing up. We have our spiritual birth, so we're little spiritual babies, you can say, even if your body's older, but you just started. And then you go through the childhood, the adolescence, the maturity, the age, all these different stages that we go through. We have to go through. And every so often we have to reinvent ourselves. Because every so often the level on which we're doing our practice is no longer satisfactory. And then we have to really go deep and say, okay, now I have to really look at this all the way again from the beginning and do it at another level. And that's very natural and very correct and very right. And we should do that. Because otherwise we will not experience a feeling of progress. And if we don't experience a feeling of progress, we will give up, because we get a lot of power, internal power, when we feel that we're getting somewhere, that we're progressing. And so there's nothing wrong with saying, okay, whatever I've been doing up until now, that was fine, but it's no longer relevant. I have to do it at another level, so then we have to find another level. So reinventing oneself, one's spiritual practice is another aspect of progress. You're not the same as a child, you're not the same when you're an older person. Life experience, your interpretation of things, your response to things, it changes because you understand things. I think this is about slowly acquiring wisdom. You know, they say older people are wise. I mean, some are, not everybody. And I think that when we are willing to reinvent ourselves every so often, that's quite good, quite authentic. And one of the things I hear from my fellow spiritual travelers is this desire to be authentic. And every so often a person feels, oh, I'm just doing this like repetitively. It doesn't have the same meaning that it had before. So these are indications that, oh, I need to really sit down with myself and really look at myself and say, okay, this is a sign. I have to do this on a more subtle level, a higher level, a deeper level. And then we may need to struggle at such a time. But this is tapasya. Tapasya means striving, struggling. It's not bad to do that. It's just one of those things. And so these are a few thoughts that I wanted to share about this very big subject of unity and harmony and unity and diversity in the human family and the spiritual family, and the great adventure of moving from where we were to where we're going. So thank you. Om Shanti. Let us turn within. Take time to go deep. And think about the self as a spiritual being, the point of light, the force of life. With a potential for complete harmony with everyone and everything. To be at one with the self means I am completely comfortable being me. I am the light. The essence of love. I exude the atmosphere of peace, sweetness, like a perfume. I am in my power. I remain who I am, and I'm comfortable with everyone else and their ways, while still remaining who I am. I turn my mind beyond the world, the dramas, to the one above. I am open to that one, and beyond all others. To fill myself with that light. I become completely subtle, away from the gross material world. In the light and the stillness, I am linked, and the energy flows into me. I am still, quiet, receiving, absorbing. I become filled with that light, and it radiates beyond me, far into the universe. The energy of harmony. The energy of love. Pulsating through the universe. Bringing harmony. Gently let myself return to the everyday world, still in that harmony, quietly.